resident welfare associations and representatives of the bulk waste generators. These can be hotels, eateries, and associations like that. And the private players are the service providers. And if you expand the list, transaction advisors can also be in some way part of it. In the government, the ULB council is very important because it's a multi-party council. So it has to get the approval of all these multiple agencies. The conservancy staff, which will be most directly affected by the decision based on the operation of the procurement mode. And obviously, the central and the state government have a very important role to play in terms of compliance. So we have listed certain expectations that these three broad categories of players have, pre-award and post-award. However, some of them are common to all. For example, a robust procurement system is, everyone wants it, the private player as well as the government, and it applies to both pre-award and post-award. However, participatory decision-making is an important thing because, and it was very well highlighted in the state of Tamil Nadu with the Alandu sewage project. I believe everyone has read that, and Dr. Ashwin would like to speak about it. In a very extensive participatory program was undertaken, in which the mayor and along with the transaction advisory team, they visited the community and they very clearly communicated the scope of the project and the constraints that was faced with the ULB. And wherever the council people were not able to address certain technical issues, the transaction advisory team, they handled the technical and the financial bits of those so that every genuine concern of the people were addressed. So the question is, we will talk only about the community part here, how to make the decision-making process more inclusive and more participatory. First of all, it has to take the buy-in from the community. And second is, we know that waste management in future will become a costly exercise because the quantity of waste that is being generated is rising substantially. So some kind of user charges also needs to be implemented. And for that, a willingness to pay survey has to be undertaken so that post-award, the project does not run into financial risk. So one way is to hold consultative meetings, groups, as well as focus group discussions, which should very clearly introduce the project, the scope, and the stakeholders. And it should tell to the people what problems the urban local body as a major stakeholder is facing. And it should address all the concerns and queries. And for the willingness to pay quotient, a survey is very necessary, and for that, the ULB can profile the community based on their high income, middle income, and low income. But that survey should tell the financial gap that the project is facing, whether it be the velour model or a centralized system. And it should keep the ULB accounts open for public scrutiny so that they should know in a very clear and crisp manner that, okay, the ULB is really in a problem. And it should also justify why I have to levy the user charges. This survey should elicit, first of all, what kind of value-added services the people want, then what they are willing to pay for that, what is the kind of service that they expect, whether they want the municipality to come and collect the waste from their doorstep, and they should also assure the community for a reliable, consistent services in lieu of the service charges. However, whatever be the user charges that is determined based on the survey outcomes as well as the financial gap that the project is facing, it should have three principles. One is the principle of economic efficiency. It should cover the cost, and it should not be very cumbersome, and the collection cost should not exceed the user charges. And it should treat equal users equally, means similar consumers equally, but it should be sufficient so that the charges cover the waste processing and disposal method so that the waste is processed and disposed in a safe manner. We know that today ULB has a role to play in all the stages of the project procurement, so which is normally identification of the project. It has to identify the project. It has to take approval from the different stakeholders. It has to acquire land, which in Tamil Nadu, I think ULB's is a very important problem. In case it is able to find a land, it has to approve the state government, where the revenue department will again come into picture and then approach. So it's a very complex process. The approval is multiple, apart from the statutory compliances from the council as well as the state government. It also has to take approval from the community. The financial arrangements, if it has finances on its own, is fine. Otherwise, it has to approach either TUFSL or TUFIDCO, depending upon the nature of grant. For procurement, again in Tamil Nadu, we see that ULBs have a limited role to play. For example, if the project tender value exceeds 5 to 10% of the tender quoted by the ULB, it has to form a committee. So again, the kind of bureaucratic system the ULB has to find itself. Monitoring is mostly by the state government, by the Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board. And post-awarded governance, once the project has been decided, the ULB needs to revisit certain changes that have been originated during the project approval and construction phase. Whatever be the choice of whatever be the stages, in the morning we have been discussing about the centralized and the decentralized system. Mr. Devsam rightly pointed out several of the features of the centralized system. So this slide will help a ULB in under what circumstances a centralized system can work and what are the merits of a decentralized system. However, I have one personal query with Mr. Srinivasan also, that how do we address the manual handling of waste in a decentralized system? So how do we address the question of manual handling of waste in a decentralized system? So from my understanding or our understanding, we believe that in case a decentralized system is chosen, it is very important that a willing workforce is there, whose commitment level is high, and that willingness has to be supported by the skills. We see that around 148 categories of waste are there. So if it has to be segregated in the proper manner, then some certain level of skills must exist. And that commitment should be supported by the urban local body. Then land is a problem. Again, it has to be at a ward level. Then there's a proper mechanism to manage the interdependent users. And I think primary segregated waste should be at least, community should be at least be willing to provide primarily segregated waste. And obviously strong monitoring by the community and the ULB is very important. In case ULB is constrained to choose a centralized system, first of all, it needs community buy-in as well as council buy-in. And it should be able to fund the project. And there should be a proper plan to integrate the unorganized workers. And till now, I think only Guwahati Solid Waste Management project has been able to integrate the solid waste informal workers into the system, where they have formed a society and trying to get their buy-in. Once the operational model is chosen, depending upon the ULB profile, the decision-making point is here whether to continue with the current system or to go for a public-private partnership. So, however, both these approaches have their own merits and demerits. In the traditional procurement mode, the project cost has to be borne by the urban local body, and automatically the higher risk retention by the ULB. Though it is simple, but it becomes cumbersome because for each and everything you need to have different tenders. You cannot share the risk with any other party, and there is limited efficiency gains if we see. How PPP can help address some of the constraints faced by the ULB. For example, it can help a urban local body that is facing financial constraints to access private finance. It also helps to create a platform where both the public sector and the private sector can work together. For example, public sector can do the monitoring part and private sector can do the operational bit. And it also provides a better risk management and control system. The limitations, as we all see in the centralized system, that monitoring is very difficult and a proper governance mechanism is not there. A revenue model is a prerequisite, which should make the project viable. Otherwise, none of the private sector will be interested. And it also has the risk of reducing accessibility, because wherever the user charges is implemented and a person is not willing to pay, the private sector will not be providing the services. How to select the procurement mode? First of all, a ULB, because ULBs are faced with different problems. Some of them may have problems with the infrastructure. For some of them may have problem with the operations. So I will just skip this because I think this is there in the manual. The idea is to first assess what is required based on the quantity, and then see what is the infrastructure and services that I'm offering. Shall I skip it? Sure. Yeah. So we believe that three scenarios may arise, and a ULB may find itself into these three positions. So one where a ULB is facing both high infrastructure as well as high operational deficit, followed by low infrastructure and high operational inefficiency, and lastly, where a ULB does not have neither the infrastructure nor the operations efficiency. So going by the first part, where where most of the ULBs are today, they will have to focus on all the entire aspects. They will have to design, construct, as well as they will have to put the capital investments, they will have to monitor, and they will have to procure the technology, whether it's to be a simple technology or an advanced one. So hypothetically, if we find that a ULB is there which faces high infrastructure and high operational efficiency, and so the question arises what it should build and what it should operate. So a very generic list is there. For example, a ULB will have to have garbage bins, vehicles, staff, and the transfer stations. So depending upon the need, there are 6 options that we say. First is ULB can go on its own, and the extreme is where everything can be handled by a private or by the community in general. So, but we see that whatever the risk sharing is, whatever the mode is, the kind of risk sharing that exists among the stakeholders varies across the procurement option. Yeah. So lastly, I will just try to highlight what should be the performance indicators and targets. The Ministry of Urban Development has prepared a service level benchmark which lists 8 broad indicators which covers the entire value chain of the solid waste management, and it applies both to centralized as well as decentralized system. So however, it would be very helpful if the local ULB is able to classify the household coverage into the 4 broad categories that I earlier mentioned, so that it should be able to find which of the category is a problem, and I need to whether I should revise my strategy. The MSW segregation further has to be under organic recyclables, non-recyclables, and glass, so that it should know that whether, for example, for certain things, a critical mass requirement is necessary. So those answers can be addressed. Collection efficiency, again, whether the slum population is not able to provide user charges, so I should build a cross-subsidy kind of model. And MSW recovery, one of the important parameter would be what is the amount of revenue that is being generated? What from the compost, and what from the, how much of energy either through gas or through biomethanation. Revenue collection efficiency can similarly follow a similar approach. And scientific disposal, again, the ULB should have data on what is the quantity of waste that goes directly, what is the quantity of waste that goes from the processing plants, that is called rejects, what is the quantity of mixed waste that is being generated, and what is the landfill gas utilization, whether I'm able to utilize the gas that is being produced in the landfill. So I would now request all of you to please comment and see whether this approach would help us to create some value in the guidebook. I'll hand over to Deepa.
Thank you so much, Ankit. I just wanted to sort of remind everybody that there is a small questionnaire that's on your table, where in the you were discussed on the 10 questions vandu ULB ku relevant illaya. How relevant is it based on on a scale of 1 to 5? How important is it ingrada patti we want your inputs. Is a collaborative effort. Tangentially, we will be developing a guidebook that will actually never be useful to the ULB. So I request my colleague Saloni, in about 10 minutes, will just sort of come over and collect these filled out questionnaires from all of you. Meanwhile, we have Professor Ashwin. So we're so sorry for the delay. We've sort of, it's been a bit of a time overrun today. But the purpose really going forward, and this is the last session for the day, is to sort of, various things have been discussed since this morning, and one key takeaway has been that there is no one-size-fits-all approach. The Vellore model has its merits, but it's not everything will pass the test of scalability and replicability, which are very crucial for us to take this model forward. So the question that perhaps we'd like an answer to at the end of this session, sir, is going forward, is there some basic consensus on a set of things that will work in Tamil Nadu in solid waste management? Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Do we provide any clarification on that? So would you actually...
the pros and cons, I have a point.
Right. If anybody has any comments on the presentation, we'll just take 2 minutes so that you could comment on it.
On the cons, you have mentioned that decentralized waste management system does not address the issue of manual handling of waste. I wish to disagree with that because already with our the messy system what we are having, we are using rag pickers, we are using so many unorganized people, most of them are Dalits who are pushed to do subhuman work presently. Now by doing this decentralized waste management in a scientific and systematic way, by bringing them as stakeholders, at least you are at least making these people do the work in much more decent way than what they are presently doing.
So, but the MSW rules strictly says that, Emmanuel, the MSW rules says that the manual handling of waste is prohibited.
No, but
So,
see, that is one is a wish list. What is the reality now? Your people who are all the people, whether it is people who are now put by Onyx or the present people, all these people who are taking it from the dump, what do you call it, the big bins,
yeah.
or the rag pickers who take out all the stuff from the dustbin, throw that on the road, then pick out the things which are economic value to them, plastics and all that. So they are already doing it, and then in the centralized dump yard also you have thousands of families who are from
Doing
children
it.
to women who are doing this subhuman work. Okay, for example, I'll tell you this with reference to manual scavenging issue in Delhi, the railway station, the solid waste management as well as the what do you call it, the civic management of Delhi railway station was handed over to Eureka folks. Okay, now Eureka folks put a lot of women and Dalits and did not even give them half an hour rest in the afternoon. So by giving it a multinational or corporate also, they are ultimately pushing it out. The executives get very good
Yeah, that's
salary.
true.
They sit in air conditioned rooms.
Point taken.
Yeah,
Sir.
see,
Point taken.
what Ramki is doing here,
So,
yeah.
decentralized just address and improve the quality of work.
So what I see your point entirely, sir. We're just sort of.
How is the caste system? If we are talking about China, if we are talking about America, it is different. Here, there is a class divide, there is a caste perpetuation. So the people who are better off now, because the biggest problem today we are facing the solid waste management is because I am willing to consume, I have the money, but I am not worried about what I do. So what we call it, the use and throw culture is there because there are people to pick up. So there is an attitude, there is a caste issue also involved in this. So without addressing the caste issue, if we are going to address solid waste management or municipal management, we are missing the
Sure, sir.
biggest picture.
Sure, sir. Point taken. Any other comments on the presentation? Any points of view? Okay, sir, over to you.
Okay. So, good evening. என் பேர் அஸ்வின். நான் வந்து எங்கள் ஐஐடி மெட்ராஸில் எங்கள் ஃபேக்கல்ட்டியாக இருக்கேன் நான். ஸோ நான் வந்து ஆக்சுவலி சாலிட் வேஸ்ட் மேனேஜ்மெண்ட்டில் என்னோட எக்ஸ்பர்டீஸ் ரொம்ப குறைச்சல். நான் வந்து என்னோடய ப்ராஜெக்ட்ஸ் இதெல்லாம் ரிசர்ச் எல்லாம் வந்து இன்ஃப்ராஸ்ட்ரக்சரில், ஸோ ரோட்ஸ், பிரிட்ஜஸ், வாட்டர் சப்ளை, சாலிட் வேஸ்ட் மேனேஜ்மெண்ட்டும் இன்ஃப்ராஸ்ட்ரக்சரை சேர்ந்தது தான். ஏன்னா அர்பன் இன்ஃப்ராஸ்ட்ரக்சர் கடியில் வருது. இருந்தாலும் இதில் நான் அவ்வளோ ரிசர்ச் பண்ணதில்லை. அதனால் நான் உங்களுக்கு முன்னாடி ஒரு எக்ஸ்பர்ட்டாக நிற்கல. தீபா 2 கேள்வி கேட்டாங்க, வாட் இஸ் தி வே தட் வி ஷுட் கோ ஃபார்வர்ட் அப்படின்னு. அந்த கேள்விக்கு பதில் எனக்கு தெரியாது. தெரிஞ்சதுன்னா இந்த டிஸ்கஷனே வேணால் நான் எழுதி தந்துருப்பேன். என்னன்னா ஐ எம் ஸ்டாண்டிங் ஹியர் ஆஸ் அ மோர் ஒரு டிஸ்கஷன் மாடரேட் பண்ணுறதுக்காக. ஸோ ஐ ஹேவ் சர்டன் வியூஸ் அண்ட் ஐடியாஸ். நீங்களும் உங்கள் வியூஸை சொல்லி ஏதோ ஒரு கன்க்ளூஷன் மாதிரி வில் கம் டு கன்க்ளூஷன் ஃபார் த டே. கிட்டத்தட்ட 3:46 தான். ஐ திங்க் எவ்ரி ஒன் ஷுட் பி வெரி டயர்ட். ஸோ ஒரு 4:10 மாதிரி ஐ திங்க் வி ஷுட் ட்ரை டு ரேப் அப். பட் பிஃபோர் வி கெட் இன் டு த டிஸ்கஷன், ஒரு 2-3 பாயிண்ட்ஸ் ஐ ஜஸ்ட் வாண்டட் டு சே. இன்னைக்கு கார்த்தால கொஞ்சம் வேலை இருந்தது, ஸோ வரல. ஸோ இன்னைக்கு அந்த டிஸ்கஷன்ஸ் என்ன டீட்டெயிலாக நடந்ததுன்னு நான் கேட்கல. இருந்தாலும் நிறைய பேர்கிட்ட பேசினேன் என்ன நடந்திருக்கு, என்ன டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணாங்க அப்படின்னு. அண்ட் அஃப்கோர்ஸ் ஆஃப்டர்நூன் செஷன் மிஸ்டர் ஸ்ரீனிவாசனோட ப்ரெசன்டேஷன், டெமான்ஸ்ட்ரேஷன் அண்ட் இந்த டிஸ்கஷன்ஸ் கேட்டேன். அதில் வந்து 2-3 திங்ஸ் ஐ திங்க் நம்ம வந்து யூ ஹேவ் டு கீப் இன் மைண்ட். ஒன்று வந்து இந்த இன்ஃப்ராஸ்ட்ரக்சர் பார்த்தோன்னா 2 அப்ரோச் இருக்குது இன்ஃப்ராஸ்ட்ரக்சர் பில்ட் பண்ண. என்ன, நீங்கள் சாலிட் வேஸ்ட் எடுங்க, வாட்டர் சப்ளை எடுங்க. ஒன்று வந்து இங்கே வந்து சென்ட்ரலைஸ் டீசென்ட்ரலைஸ்ன்னு சொன்னாங்க. மேபி நதர் டெர்மினாலஜி இஸ் டாப் டவுன் அண்ட் கிராஸ் ரூட்ஸ்னு கூட சொல்லலாம். ஒரு அப்ரோச் என்னென்னா, நம்ம இந்த டாப் டவுன் அப்ரோச்சை பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, நம்ம இப்போ சாலிட் வேஸ்ட் எடுத்தோம்னா ஒரு லார்ஜ் ஏரியா கவர் பண்ணுவோம். அது ஒரு நெட்வொர்க் மாதிரி அதை எப்படியாவது இவால்வ் பண்ணோம். ஸோ இங்கெங்கெல்லாம் கலெக்ட் பண்ணுவோம், அது வந்து ஒரு ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் ஸ்டேஷனுக்கு எடுத்துகிட்டு போவோம். அதுக்கப்புறம் எங்கேயான ஒரு ஃபைனல் ப்ராசஸிங் ஃபெசிலிட்டி, அந்த ப்ராசஸிங் ஃபெசிலிட்டி காம்போஸ்டிங்காக இருக்கலாம், இன்சினரேஷனாக இருக்கலாம், வேறு வேஸ்ட் எனர்ஜியாக இருக்கலாம், என்ன வேணால் இருக்கலாம். பட் அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு லார்ஜ் ஸ்கேல் சொல்யூஷன் ஃபார்முலேட் பண்ணுறது. இப்போ நீங்கள் வாட்டர் சப்ளை பார்த்தாலும் இந்த மாதிரி தான் யோசிக்கிறோம். நம்ம ஒரு லார்ஜ் ஸ்கேல் நெட்வொர்க் சொல்யூஷன் எப்படி வந்து ஒரு பெரிய ரிசர்வாயர் லேருந்து நம்ம எப்படி தண்ணி எடுத்துன்னு வந்து அதை வந்து டிஸ்ட்ரிபியூஷன் ஜங்ஷன்ஸ் போட்டு ஒரு வீட்டுக்கும் டிஸ்ட்ரிபியூட் பண்ணி அந்த மாதிரி பண்ணுற மாதிரி அது ஒரு திங்கிங். அதில் என்ன அட்வான்டேஜ் நினைக்கிறாங்கன்னா, அது லார்ஜ் ஏரியாஸை கவர் பண்ணோன்னா அந்த டாப் டவுன் அப்ரோச், அந்த சென்ட்ரலைஸ்ட் அப்ரோச் கொஞ்சம் பெட்டராக இருக்கும். இது வரைக்கும் அது ஒரு கன்வென்ஷனல் திங்கிங். அது சரியா தப்பான்னு நம்ம டிபேட் பண்ணலாம். பட் இது வரைக்கும் அந்த ஐடியா வச்சுருந்தா வராங்க எல்லாரும். இன்னைக்கு இப்போ மிஸ்டர் ஸ்ரீனிவாசன் ப்ரெசன்டேஷன் கேட்டாங்கன்னா அது வந்து ஒரு கம்ப்ளீட்லி ஆப்போசிட் வே ஆஃப் திங்கிங் மாதிரி. அது வந்து டீசென்ட்ரலைஸ் கிராஸ் ரூட்ஸ் திங்கிங், வேர் வி ஆர் சேயிங் இந்த மாதிரி லார்ஜ் நெட்வொர்க் சொல்யூஷன்ஸ் வேண்டாம், அங்கங்கே அந்தந்த ரீஜன்ஸில் வந்து வி கேன் இவால்வ் சொல்யூஷன். இது சாலிட் வேஸ்ட்டில் மட்டும் இல்லை, மற்ற செக்டரில் கூட அப்ளிகபிள். இது இப்போ நீங்கள் வந்து சானிடேஷன் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா நெட்வொர்க் டாப் டவுன் சொல்யூஷன் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு பெரிய சுவேஜ் ட்ரீட்மெண்ட் பிளான்ட் ஒன்று கட்டலாம். 80 MLD 100 MLDக்கு கட்டி எல்லா சுவேஜும் அங்கே ரவுட் பண்ணி அங்கே ப்ராசஸ் பண்ண வைக்கலாம். இல்லாட்டி லோக்கலாக நம்ம டீசென்ட்ரலைஸ் வேஸ்ட் வாட்டர் ட்ரீட்மெண்ட் மாதிரி அந்தந்த கம்யூனிட்டிக்கும் கட்டி பண்ணலாம். ஸோ இது நம்ம சொல்கிறது வந்து சாலிட் வேஸ்ட்டுக்கு மட்டும் இல்லைன்னு மட்டும் டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணுறதுன்னு இல்லை, இட் இஸ் ஜெனரிக்லி அப்ளிகபிள் அக்ராஸ் செக்டர்ஸ். ஸோ அது ஒன்று. இந்த